All right, everybody just move on up. Everybody come on up. All right, George Lopez and Reverend Sandra Smith. Let's put our hands together for them again.
Reverend Smith, ladies first.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lopez.
You are welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pastor Sandra Smith, and I'm here today to talk to you about precious metals, silver and gold specifically. I am a financial literacy educator, and I'm a gold and silver consultant. And what I want to share with you is the value of precious metals, and having precious metals as a part of your portfolio in this economic climate in which we're in, to reduce the adverse effects of inflation, high interest rates, and taxes, and an opportunity to earn residual income. And we all could use another stream of income, is that correct?
That is correct.
So I'd like to ask you to join us for our 7K presentation and learn more about using precious metals as a hedge against all of those things I pointed out, how inflation, and how you can build generational wealth for your children's children. And it has been given to us in a way in which we can utilize it without breaking the bank. There's no minimum and no maximum that you have to purchase. And bullion is energy. So I invite you, those of you that want to learn more or want to earn a residual income, to please contact us. We have a table back there. Please join us in helping our community to build wealth to fund your passion. My passion is to rebuild Black communities, beginning with my own home community in North Carolina. And that's why I am in. Would join me this evening to help build wealth, generational wealth in our community. Thank you so much, and I turn it over to Mr. George Lopez.
Great job, Pastor Sandra. I remember some years ago when I was still in the Coast Guard, somebody introduced me and they said, George Lopez is coming up to the mic. And so one of the guys in the congregation said, but I don't see no Mexican. That's okay. My name is George Lopez. I was born same day, same month, same year as the comedian. Yes. And so I'm here to say that I'm the CEO of Generation Next Realty team of Keller Williams, where we help people to buy, sell, and invest in real estate, okay? We help people to buy, sell, and invest in real estate. And that's not just where we come from in Chesapeake, Virginia. That's all over the continental United States and all over the world. So if you know of somebody who wants to purchase, we can handle that affair. We can handle that transaction. The good thing about Keller Williams is that, well, one of the good things is that we work on a referral, and they don't have a realtor, have them contact me. Give me a call, and I will make that transaction happen. I remember back in 2018 when we just started, our first year we did about $50,000 for that year. I was still brand new. And so with the help of ELN, the Empower Lifestyle Network, where they inspire, educate, and empower, we took it to the next level in 2019. We went pretty close to $200,000, okay? So ELN works not just theoretically, but also practically. With the team that they have, they are going to make things happen. So it could happen for you. They did it for me, okay? I'm also a VA home loan certified. Pass it. So if you are a veteran and you are renting, you could contact me. I can help you to get a VA loan. One of the good things about the VA loan is the no money down. Unlike FHA and conventional, where you got to put down $6,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, with the VA loan, it's no money down. Take advantage of it. The folks have not used it. You know what happened after World War II? Our soldiers came back from the war, okay? And this country did not give them the educational benefit that they deserved and the housing benefit that they deserved. And a lot of people were displaced because of that. Folks, if you are active duty reserve, veteran, take advantage of the VA home loan. It works, Okay? So that's it. I am leaving. Give me a call at 410-703-8061. God bless.
Say that number again. You said
Okay.
it way too fast.
All right, for the people who process slow, it's 410-703-8061. I'll be with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you both very much. I want to just introduce another dynamic young woman. I heard her present at the U.S. Africa Expo a couple of months ago at the UN, and wow, the information. Everybody say information. Everybody say information. Isn't that so key? The information that she shares and she's talking about is really, really, really some awesome. Put our hands together for Michelle Walker Davis, principal at Imperial Management Group. Y'all can do better than that. Let's put our hands together for her as she comes.
Of you love free money? Raise your hand. Okay. No, you don't. No, you don't. And I'll tell you why. Because during COVID, I found out that there's enter up here. And most of you have not applied. Okay? How many of you have applied for grant funding? Raise your hand. Okay, there you go. How many of you have raised your hand? You know what? Most of you are my clients. But that's okay. That's great. So I am here, and Reverend Dillon has invited me to come here because I specialize in helping faith-based organizations, women, black women, minorities, BIPOC organizations get into that space because we're only winning at a 4% rate. So imagine that. Out of $850 billion, we're only getting 4% of that. Now, mind you, 4% is around $170 billion, so it's nothing to just, sneeze at. But on the other side of that, our counterparts are getting the leftover, the bigger share of that pot, okay? So we can no longer allow that to happen. On the contracting side, I found out during COVID that there's $7 trillion available every year for government contracts. These contracts are financed 100% through taxpayers' dollars. No one pays more taxes than you and I, right? I wish I had paid $750 in taxes last year. They would have hauled me, my husband, all my children, my dog, everybody out of my house, right? You try that and see what happens to you. Women and people of color, everybody in this room collectively, we got 0.006%, all right? So therefore, white, male-owned businesses receive $7 trillion. And not just this year or last year, but for generations. So if we want to talk about closing the black wealth gap, I have identified 2 areas in which we can focus in. So Michelle Walker Davis, Senior Congressional Evaluator, worked for the General Accounting Office with the federal government. Co-authored over 10 congressional reports on fraud, waste, and abuse, looking at contracting and grants and how they're awarded. At the time, I didn't know I was going to own my own business and be on this side of it. But would have it, I went from the federal government to the state level as a partnership coordinator for New Jersey, looking at shared services between New York, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. And then I worked as a health planner for Burlington County, looking at the quality of life for 400,000 residents, and I was in charge of putting together the master plan. So what did that do for me? It allowed me to learn about federal, state, and local funding. So here's why I'm here. I'm not here to talk. I'm here for action. My firm brought in over $6 million last year for clients that look just like you. The ones that don't apply, that never received anything, the ones whose businesses are hanging by a shoestring, those that are financing everything out of their own pocket. When there's free money available, thank you, honey, free money available every year. And I'll tell you, for you nonprofit organizations, that should be your #1 funding source. Grants, because 80% of that money is designated for nonprofit organizations. Our counterparts are doing it. That's how their organizations are blooming and doing well. And between November 1st and December 31st is when the big boys really play. Because whatever funding is left over, this is their biggest fundraising time right now. So I'm looking for people that are ready to take action today. Not tomorrow, not next week. If you take action today or tomorrow while I'm here, I'll give you $1,000 off in addition to a 10% discount, because I don't want you haggling over money. Okay, I'm throwing you a lifeline. What I'm going to do for you is get you into this funding pot this year in December. Okay? It's a process. So anyways, Reverend Dillon, I thank you so much. God bless you guys. You have my information. The papers back there. I'll be here tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Come on, let's put our hands together for Michelle. Wow, we've got such dynamic people doing dynamic and awesome things, don't we? We are a dynamic people doing dynamic and awesome things. Oh no, y'all ain't getting it yet. I am a dynamic person doing dynamic and awesome things. Come on, put your hands together for yourselves. Listen, guys, it's going to be at a whole nother level tomorrow. Even the mayor of Paterson, New Jersey is going to be here tomorrow. You know, this is how awesome tomorrow is going to be. The president of commerce of New Jersey is going to be here tomorrow. The president of the Greater Paterson Chamber of Commerce is going to be here tomorrow. So it's going to be an awesome day tomorrow, and there will be a clergy forum that will take place tomorrow. So there'll be a host of other clergy leaders that will be in the house tomorrow. Somebody say tomorrow. Somebody say, I got to be in the house tomorrow. Please, do me a favor, invite somebody to come and to be a part of this tomorrow as well. I want to introduce, and you know, we've known each other for quite a number of years. He's just a dynamic man, but when I look at the front run, I'm seeing, you know, these are the African travelers. This is meeting with some of the African leaders, presidents even, and I'm just looking at Dr. George Fraser, who in 2019, about how many of us? 40 of us, went on a tour to Africa. We had clergy and elected officials from across the U.S., not just New York, and key business leaders and so forth. And one of the great leaders that was with us is my friend who is just going to come and share a little bit with us. And that is the dynamic Senator James Saunders, who is the chairman of the Banking Committee for the State Senate. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Senator James Saunders.
Saying dynamic, I kept looking around. I said, he's certainly talking about George Fraser. I'm going to tell you a couple of things, and then I'm going to get out the way. But I got the privilege of really bringing out the reason why we're here today. First, anybody in here trying to make? If you're not in here because you're trying to make some money, can I encourage you? You're in the wrong place. On Wednesday, I will be meeting with the Prime Minister of the Ivory Coast, African Exim Bank, Export-Import Bank. They are putting together a $1 billion fund because they're interested in doing business with you. And they are looking for who is ready to do business with them. Who is ready? So if anybody is ready, Frazier is going to tell you, because you're not really ready unless you hear him. And then you need to you need to get in touch with me through our leader, Pastor Dylan, who is doing such incredible things. Let's see, housekeeping. Black church means business. I think that's fantastic. We're here for that purpose, and that's great. All of these organizations, from the Christian Times to List to Medgar Evers to Greater Harlem, we are grateful that all of you have come together. I am the chair of lots of different things, but right now I am coming before you because I am the chair of the Senate's Banking Committee. I am also the author of the MWBE laws of New York City and New York State. The laws that are allowing many of you to get in and do business. I wrote them. The way you know that that's true, you look at a law and you look whose name is right afterwards. My name is Sanders. If you see it first or second, that means I did it. If you see it second, it's because politically I allowed somebody else to put their name there. Different story for a different day. Let's see, what fast can I tell you? Enough for me. On another day we could get to me, but I want to tell you about one of the most dynamic Africanists that you are going to meet in a long time. I'm going to tell you about a person who is renowned not simply here, but in Cape Town and other places, in Africa and Europe. There's a people who pay a lot of money to listen to this guy, Reverend Doctor. And you are about to get it almost for free. Somebody had to pay for him, let's be clear. So you're about to get it, which means sometimes we have to realize what you are getting. You know, the Bible, Reverend Man, speaks of Jesus' first miracle. And for those who kind of forgot it, it's turning water into wine. But the part that I want you to remember is at the end of it, some people came and said, this is the best wine. Other people serve the best wine at first. And you have saved the best for last. My friends, now I'm not taking away from anybody, including myself, who spoke before the next speaker. I am saying that if you listen, if you put your ears together, let him who has ears and he who has eyes, and she, listen and see what is being said. Now, there are many things that I can tell you about George Frazier, but perhaps the most important one that he wants you to know is that he's from Do or Die. Oh, y'all don't know. Oh, they don't know about that. Oh, y'all don't know about that. I'll try it in a different way. He is from an area that many of you now call Bedford and Stuyvesant. Oh, no, Stuyvesant Heights, Lord have mercy. To those who don't know, that means. But in the day when you were out there, it was known as Bed-Stuy. And that means that now, you may not know that there are many places in New York where you could run your mouth and say anything you wish. But Bed-Stuy is not one of them. Bed-Stuy, you had to back it up. So if a person is able to go through those things and just beat the world in so many different ways, it's a person that you need to listen to. Now, I believe that are you going to give them your media presentation? Okay, good, because I'm doing him a great disservice, and you need to first know who you're hearing to see if they have any quality. And if they don't have quality, well, don't listen. But here is a time when you need to. So having said that again, my name is James Sanders, Jr. I am chair. I am on just about every economic committee that the state has. We're starting to do some stuff international, and Pastor Dillon and Reverend Mann is and his lovely wife is at the head of all of this. So to get to me is to get to them. Wait a minute. To get to them is to get to me. Got to get these things right now. Having said that, I'm going to say I'm going to sit in the back for a while, Brother George, and I'm going to try to listen to as much as I can. But my district is very territorial on me, and they only gave me a passport to come to Brooklyn for a little bit. We are in Queens, and we got this thing about Brooklyn. But I'm not going to say why this should have been in Queens. I'm not going to say that. I will tell you that I'll sit in the back because I don't need anybody from the Ville walking up on me, correcting me. Y'all do that on another day. Having said that, my friends, I'm sitting in the back. We got a real treat. My friend and yours, Brother Frazier, is going to come. First, we're going to hear about him. Then he's going to speak about him. And then he's going to give you a chance to renew yourself thanks to what he's saying. Thank you, thank you, and thank you. And with that third thank you, I am dropping the mic.
We are the saddest people with the most potential on the globe. God has given us more resources than any group in the world, yet because we do not know our most valuable resource is family, we still haven't found our fortune. I have, for the last 20 given more than 1,000 qualified referrals of business to people who are my clients, my friends, and my contacts, following the example of the man who sits on this front row, who taught me that you can turn contacts, contracts, and contracts into cash flow. The Africans say, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I am fortunate that I found mine. And with our friendship, we have built an organization that has $180 million a year in purchasing power, operates in every part of the globe. When people have conferences, they call on Matthews Business Network, whether the conference is in Los Angeles, whether the conference is in Houston, whether the conference is in Charlotte, North Carolina, or West Dennis Dillon, did we show up? Ask George Frazier, did we show up? Ask Jim Beatty in the Black Golf Association, did we show up? I'm going to leave you with this. Doc said at a speech that he gave in Detroit that he knows black people all over the globe. Some are millionaires, some are billionaires. We've got people, family, doing it to death all over the globe. But here's the shout and the challenge. He said it's okay for us to be dispersed. But it is not okay for us to be disconnected. We are a family. And until we identify that we're a family, we will never make good use of our fortune. I challenge you today to remember you are a family so that you can take advantage of your fortune. Because we are at Resurgence, and I'm going to walk phone to my dude. This is my ride or die. Y'all met my sister over there. She's got $850 billion. Because we are at Resurgence, remember this. John chapter 14, verse 3 says, fear not. Believe in God and believe in me. In my Father's house there are many mansions. If it were not so, I wouldn't have told you. If Jesus himself is telling you about his daddy's mansions, what do you think you're supposed to have? Right, young blood? If Jesus is talking about his daddy got mansions, what are you supposed to have? Right? I am always fascinated, Reverend Youngblood, how surprised the saved get when they get a blessing. I heard some folk up here talk about millions of dollars, they JP Morgan Bank and all that, friends, and all this stuff that they have. If you believe in the God you say you believe, if you're surprised when he does what your prayer asks for, you're not supposed to be surprised. You're supposed to say, yeah, yeah. I tell you this, it is not your job to ask him how. It is your responsibility to tell him yes. Yes.
Yes.
I don't like holding a microphone. I use my hands when I talk. It is good to be home. It really is. Born and raised in Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn, New York, 779, let's see, Putnam Avenue. Between Reed and Stuyvesant. Now, I think it's Malcolm X Boulevard now. And it's good to be back. It's good to see so many of my friends. I'm excited, actually. I'm moved and I am excited. I'm honored. I've got about 30 minutes. I got a call from Reverend Dennis Dillon a couple of months ago. He said, Doc, do you believe in the concept of free speech? I said, Reverend Dillon, I worship at the altar, First Amendment. He said, that's wonderful, Doc. Would you mind coming to Brooklyn and giving a free speech? Absolutely. To the Honorable Dr. Dennis Dillon, to the distinguished guests, Senator James Saunders, who did an incredible job in introducing me and giving us some nuggets, Stan Matthews, my good friend Randy Norfleet, Michelle Walker Davis, and all of the friends that I have in this audience. Now, you know that I am from Bed-Stuy. And they say if you're from Bed-Stuy, either a thug or a gangster. I'm a gangster. So I'm going to speak to you like a Bed-Stuy gangster, straight, no chaser. Take out your pencil and paper, take some notes. I'm only going to say this once. Today I will open with a few brief insights on the key content and subject matter of this very, very Resurgence Conference, to include building and managing wealth and business and the power of the human connection, as well as the key challenges within the African diaspora. Now, to that end, I'm going to segue to a 3-minute editorial piece on the state of Africa as I see it, and our much-needed critical partnership over the next 5 generations with our African brothers and sisters. Now, if I have time, and I probably will not, I will close with a 12-minute essay entitled "The Time Has Come, Rise or Die." Now, I've given this essay in 6 different parliaments on the continent, to include the extraordinary 3-country trip, Reverend Dillon, that we took together in 2019 with the 40 or so folks that you had mentioned. Finally, I will lay out a scientific, but in a very simple way, to help you understand that your best work is ahead of you. So let me get started. So I want to say the next couple of things and still be loved. Ain't nobody saving black people but black people. It's been 400 years and we ain't saved. What in the hell are we waiting for? The Bible tells us what? A house divided will not stand. And so till there is unity throughout the diaspora, we will never be free. The question I ask you is, do you understand that we're all drinking from wells that we did not dig? A 250-year fight for our freedom from 1619 to 1864. A 100-year fight for civil rights, voting rights, public access, fair housing. These are things that we must never, ever forget. Therefore, the question to you is, are we worthy of that legacy? And if you believe that we are worthy of that legacy, the deeper question is, what then will be the legacy of Generation X, Y, Z, and Generation Alpha. What will our children's children's children, Reverend Dillon, be saying about them 150 years from now? We cannot allow our legacy to end with the civil rights struggle. 1962, I was 17 years old, running the streets of Bed-Stuy, took a train trip to Harlem. I was on 125th Street. There was a young brother on a soapbox. So I gathered around like others. He was. His name was Stokely Carmichael. Later, he changed his name to Kwame Ture. He was at the right hand of Dr. Martin Luther King. Stokely Carmichael said something so poignant that it infused the seed in my subconscious and became the guiding light of my life. I'm going to quote what he said verbatim. He said, "No black person in this country makes any advancement solely based on his or her talent or worth. All individual advancement is based on mass struggle. We make no progress in this world without shedding our blood. Therefore, brothers and sisters, your advancement and success not belong. It belongs. Use your success or advancement for the benefit of your people. It's a betrayal of the people who shed their blood for you." I never forgot that. Nobel Prize winner, Pulitzer Prize winning author Toni Morrison said it differently. She said, if you are free, you need to free somebody else. And if you have some power, your job is to empower somebody else. The great African-centered philosophy, Dr. John Henrik Clarke from Harlem, mentor to Malcolm X, said it differently. He said it more simply. He said, take what you do best and do it for your people. The power of the human connection. Relationships. I've been writing about that and speaking on that for nearly 40 years. I wrote a modern-day classic, I'm not bragging, I'm just saying, called Success Runs in Our Race, The Complete Guide to Effective Networking in the African-American Community. It is a modern-day classic. It is required reading in 57 historically black colleges. It is a book that started the networking conversation in Black America and ultimately started the networking movement. In that book, I framed my conversation about the power of the human connection with a quote from the Bible, John 5:30. This is a direct quote from Jesus Christ. Now, there are 800,000 words in the Bible. Only 1,500 of those words are direct quotes from Jesus Christ. John 5:30. And Jesus said, I of my own self can do nothing. Now, this was Jesus, the Son of God. He couldn't get it done on his own by himself in a vacuum. So what's up with you? Why do you think you could do anything significant, anything worth talking about, Johnny Ray Youngblood, on your own, by yourself, in a vacuum? It is not possible. You are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. The fastest way to change yourself is to hang out with people who are already where you want to be. What am I saying to you, brothers and sisters? Don't spend major time with minor people. People going nowhere want you to go nowhere with them. People doing nothing want you to do nothing with them. If you want to change your life, change your relationships. If you are not where you want to be in life, it's because you don't have the right people in your life. The most powerful asset that you will have in the 21st century will not be your computer. I am sorry. It will be your relationships. That's the most powerful asset that you will have. It is deeply related to your ability to conduct business. Why? Business is about relationships. Without relationships, you have no business. Without relationships, you have no business being in business. In fact, the business of building relationships, in case no one has told you. You must build an ecosystem of relationships. When I say an ecosystem, there are 3 types of relationships that you're going to have to work on in your life. Now, passage. What's a passage, Dr. Fraser? A passage is 10 years. And if you're lucky, you'll get 8 passages in life. Let me unpack that. You're a different person at 10 than you were at 1. You're a different person at 20 than you were at 10. Let us pray. You're a different person at 30 than 20, 40 than 30, 50 than 40, 60 than 50, 70 than 60, 80 than 70. You're constantly evolving. Who's in your life? Who's your partner? I've been married to the same sister for 50 years. That's 50. People ask me all the time, what is the key to staying married to the same sister for 50 years? It's just 2 words. Amnesia and submission. At some point in time, Reverend Youngblood, you'll understand that you must just submit to the foibles and picadillos of each other. And when you have a disagreement in 50 years, Dr. Fraser is going to do something stupid, and so is Nora Jean Fraser. And when we do our stupid shit, we come together. We talk about it. We reach middle ground. We bless it and release it, never to bring it up again. That's lesson number 2. Now, on relationships, I'll say one other thing. Now, this is probably one of the most uncomfortable truths that you will ever hear in your life, but I'm going to say it to you. You will make more money because of your connections / your network and your personality or your emotional intelligence than you will from intellect. You see, you could be the smartest, most incredible authority on whatever it may be. But if you haven't mastered the art of bonding with people and connecting with human beings, you will always make mediocre money. If you are brilliant, but you have the personality of a box of rocks, you've met them, you ain't going nowhere. This is huge. Don't forget it. Now let me move on to wealth. You may have seen my viral video on black folks are headed into a second slavery. Black America, brothers and sisters, is in an existential crisis. Until Black America puts Black America first, we will always be last. To be black and beautiful means nothing in this world unless you're black and powerful. You cannot be black and proud and niggers too. Let me repeat that for you. You cannot be black and proud and niggers too. White folks are planning for 3 generations, and we're planning for Saturday night. The goal, brothers and sisters, is to win, not to look like we're winning. I would rather carry a plastic bag with $5,000 in it than to carry a $5,000 Louis Vuitton bag with $100 in it. You see, you just look like you're winning. You ain't winning. It is interesting to me that the rich stay rich while pretending to be poor, and the poor stay poor while pretending to be rich. We are headed into a second slavery if nothing changes. So let me give you a couple of tips. The government will never tell you this, so I'm going to tell you. You may be hearing this for the first time. Write it down. The tax system in America is set up for the landowner and the business owner. And if we don't own land, and we own the fewest number of homes per capita of any cultural group in this country, and we came over here on the Mayflower, and if we don't own businesses, and we own the fewest number of businesses per capita of any cultural group in this country, you will not be able to exploit the American tax system. Ask Donald Trump. I hate that way. I spell it small t, capital R, capital U, capital M, capital P. And the T is silent. We must start businesses. We must start businesses. We are the consumption class in this country, brothers and sisters. Folks are the merchant class. They make stuff, and we buy stuff. We are a $1.7 trillion annual economy, but our money goes in one direction away from us, and we're some of America's most conspicuous consumers. Stop it. Sell something. Sell something quarter-time, part-time, full-time. Let your 9 to 5 fund your 5 to 9. Start a business. If you bake cookies, put them in a box and sell it to somebody. If you live on a farm, take the manure, put your name on it, and sell it to somebody. You could sell shit in America. By the way, it's a $6 billion business. Stop doing all the darn buying. What is the secret for an entrepreneur to have a successful business today? It's a simple secret: quality, excellence. I don't know what your mother and father taught you when you were coming up, but mine said we're going to have to be twice as good to get half as much. Because if you're black and mediocre in America, you better leave, because you're ultimately going to be marginalized. Growing up, basically in orphanages and foster care, my mother became mentally ill when I was 2. There was 11 of us, 8 boys and 3 girls. My father was a New York City cab driver, and he couldn't take care of 11 children. So at 2, I was orphaned. Stayed in an orphanage, several of them, until 5, and then spent the balance of my young life aging out of foster care. College material, so I ended up going to a vocational high school after being kicked out of Boys High, and I got a diploma in carpentry. Now, I couldn't get a job in carpentry at that time, Reverend Dillon, because the Italians control the carpenter union in New York. So my first job, real job, was mopping floors and spit-shining latrines and urinals at LaGuardia Airport. If you go to LaGuardia Airport today and you go down into the maintenance department, there's a picture of George Fraser. I was the best floor mopper in the history of LaGuardia Airport. I took ownership of my toilets, my urinals, and my floors. Now, what does all that mean? It's not how you start, it's how you finish. And how you do anything is how you do everything. Excellence for me actually started in our foster homes, transferred to the toilets of LaGuardia Airport, and then inserted itself into every single thing that I do. Quality in everything that you do. Make quality and excellence, brothers and sisters, a priority. Speed is marketing. Quality is proper branding. Quality. Quick question for you entrepreneurs out there. No, I'm not going to ask it as a question. I'm going to say the first thing as a statement, then I'll ask you a simple question that you will not be able to answer. If you don't have a system, you don't have a business. I don't know what the hell you have, but it ain't a business. You know what it is? It's a business. You see, and the job of FraserNet and Power Networking is to put the black business people out of business. Because you're messing it up for those of us that are doing serious business. Second question, brand, or are you a logo? A logo is an artistic depiction of an idea. That's all it is. A brand is a promise. Is your promise? Do you even know what your promise is? Do your customers know what your promise is? Are you delivering on that promise? This is hugely important. Finally, on this particular subject, I want to say one thing about money. Money is the mother's milk of all great intentions. And without money, all you have is a good damn intention. Money, it is absolutely critical. Now, let me segue to a personal editorial I wrote recently for a newspaper, a black newspaper, and it's about Africa. I've been to Africa 37 times. I'm well-traveled and well-read, not bragging, just saying. I have 10.5 million frequent flyer miles. 37 times, 21 countries in 40 years. To include to Africa that many times, I want to make this statement to include my 50-year mentor, Dr. Kwa David Whitaker, a dual citizen of Ghana, an installed chief in the village of Atankwa in Elmina. And I want to say what I'm going to say, my poignant observations, or maybe acerbic observations, of what's going on in the continent. Political leaders are in leadership positions with compromised control and virtually no power. Why? Former colonial systems and legal structures are still being used to control Africa through puppet leadership, using banking, healthcare, the judicial, wig-wearing systems, insurance and reinsurance, import and export, miseducation, religion, restrictions on manufacturing, and offers of bogus aid packages, just to cite a few of the more obvious things. This is exactly what represents the power of everything woke and conscious in continental Africa, or continental Africans. There's continental Africans, us, and then there are Africans on the continent. We, as continental Africans, must work towards strategic alliances, joint ventures, and partnership through our brothers and sisters throughout the diaspora, especially on the continent. Why? In sub-Saharan Africa, 70% of the most important minerals are under the feet of our brothers and sisters. Except we can't get them out of the ground. The Chinese have to come and get them out of the ground. Other groups, the French, have to come and get them out of the ground. This is exactly what represents the power of everything woke and conscious continental Africans must be working towards today. Let me say that another way. The colonizers had three common objectives in the 1884-85 Berlin Conference, and they were as follows. Number one, to occupy the land, thus they had colonial wars. Number three, to install colonial imperialism, thereby establishing the socio-cultural, economic, and spiritual infrastructure whereby they could run the day-to-day affairs on the land. And number three, to establish, support, and maintain the export operations for the continuous and uninterrupted mining, extraction, and shipping of valuable minerals and resources to build up their own home countries. This process worked without from anybody for about 80 years. Until 1957, when Nkrumah declared Ghana's independence, and then it was followed by a crusade of independence for other African countries. Unfortunately, in all of the independence, excitement, and celebrations, they lost sight of the reality that the so-called independence only ended the colonial occupation. Numbers one, occupy the land. Number two, run the day-to-day affairs on the land. And number three, use African resources to build their own countries. They are waiting, those three things are waiting for support, our support, and our guidance. The biblical verse that discusses the prophecy that speaks to the 400-year enslavement in foreign land, wherein the people after 400 years will come out with great substance. This was the foundation for Ghana's year of return, 1619 to 2019, where over 1 million visitors, mostly African Americans, came in response to an invitation to come home. To Africa, we, continental Africans, are the great substance. To us, Africa is the opportunity to join hands, establish unity, capitalize on diaspora skills, talents, expertise, fused with culture, community, and family to take full control of all the minerals and wealth buried beneath Africa's feet. We must dismantle number two and number three, remnants of colonialism, and taking control and wielding real power to end the neo-colonial era. It is a new form of colonialism in Africa. We must do this once and for all. The return of Africans to of power, royalty, and dignity. Brothers and sisters, that's what time it is. That's what we have to do. To do this, we must first understand the difference between Eurocentric thinking, how white folks think, and African. I wrote extensively about this in my first book, Success Runs in Our Race, The Complete Guide to Effective Networking in the African American Community 32 years ago. So I'm going to give you an executive summary for those of you that do not fully understand the difference between how the colonialists think throughout the world and how we think. So first, I'm going to give you a simple comparison between a Eurocentric worldview and an African-centered worldview. Eurocentric worldview. Order is imposed by the stronger force. The stronger force gains the advantage by ordering the universe as it wishes. That is their worldview. Those who came out of the Caucasus Mountains and dispersed throughout Europe and around the world. Now, an African-centered worldview, which is in excess of 5,000 years old. The universe is alive and active, and the laws of nature reveal its inherent order as well as the Creator's divine. Now, do you understand the gap between how they think and how we think? It is as wide as the Grand Canyon. So in order to deal with a people, you must understand what? Where they are coming from. Now, Eurocentric thinking. Survival of the fittest promotes a drive for mastery and control of nature and the accumulation of possessions. Afrocentric thinking. There is a oneness of all things. Life is primary. Divine nature, group maintenance, collectiveness, and sharing are essential. That's huge. They don't get us, and we don't get them. Finally, Eurocentric cosmology. It's a philosophy of how things work in a world. Eurocentric cosmology. Humans exist apart and separate in an independent and separate collection of entities that comprise the universe. African-centered cosmology. The universe originates from the Creator and reflects the interconnectedness and interdependence of all things. That's huge. They don't think like that. We do. I'm not going to say any more about that. If you want to know more about that, I wrote extensively about that with the help of some of the greatest thinkers in America. I urge you to, in fact, read the book, Success Runs in Our Race, The Complete Guide to Effective Networking in the African American Community. Now, I don't have time to run this piece called The Time Has Come, Rise or Die, of which I have given in 6 parliaments, to include the ones we were in, and 15 countries in Africa. My hue and cry to help them understand. I don't have time to get into that. Maybe tomorrow. It's about 13 minutes. I don't want to take up any more time. We have a lot of incredible speakers, and we want you to hear them. All I'm going to do is give you just a sample of what's in this document. You may want to request from Dr. Fraser a copy of this document. And I urge you to read it and use it. In other words, steal it. And you'll want to steal it. It opens with a simple statement. J. Edgar Hoover, the U.S. director of the FBI for 37 was asked in a major political conference in the 1950s, here's the question to Hoover. What do you see as the single greatest threat to the United States of America? His answer is documented. Negro unity. That's what he saw. This threat to this country. Us connecting the dots and leveraging more effectively our collective resources and intellectual capital. Hoover was correct then, and it would be true today. If 1.6 billion African descendants were united on the continent throughout the diaspora, it would unleash the leveraging of $100 trillion, 25% of the annual production of global wealth. It would at least unleash human and intellectual and financial capital in combination with the control of the largest concentration of precious metals, valuable minerals, and natural resources in the world, right in Africa. That would plunge the outside world into a shithole existence and dramatically change the economic algorithm or balance of global power overnight. That's what kind of power we have. But we don't understand how powerful we are. We don't remember that we are the children of the slaves that would not die, that we have the genetic encoding of the kings and queens of Africa, that we were building pyramids when other cultures were living in caves practicing cannibalism. We are an awesome and powerful people. The time has come, brothers and sisters. I believe that Africans and their diaspora brothers and sisters in the Caribbean and beyond are at a pivotal point in history, facing existential challenges from the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, unchecked climate forces, globally modified crops, proliferation, depopulation initiatives. Need I go on? The world does not want us to wake up to our power. It is time for Africans at home and throughout the diaspora to take the head seat at the head table, not only in the diaspora, but in the global economy. Unfortunately, collectively, we continue to place our power in the hands of those who have historically enslaved and colonized us, and even worse, we continue to oppress, abuse, and exploit each other in our efforts to gain favor with them as we line our pockets at the expense of our own kind and kin. Shame on us. That's part one. If you're hanging around tomorrow and you give me 10 minutes, I'll finish the rest of it. It gets better. All right, let me close out. I want to give you some hope. I read scientific journals. 3 years ago, the New England Journal of Medicine came out with a longitudinal study on the 3 most productive periods of your life. The number 3 most productive period of your life is between 50 and 60. The number 2 most productive period of your life is between 70 and 80. The number 1 most productive period of your life is between 60 and 70. So if you're 0, you ain't done a damn thing yet. That's what I'm saying to you. Your best stuff is in front of you. The average age of a Nobel Prize winner is 62. The average age of a CEO of a Fortune 500 company is 63. The average age of the pastors of the 100 largest churches in America is 71. Moses was 80 when he got his assignment from God. The average age of a pope is 76. Mandela became president of South Africa at 76. Gandhi secured India's independence at 61. Ray Kroc, nearly 60. Toni Morrison won her beloved Pulitzer Prize at 57. My best work began at 50. Oh, I was piddling around doing some things between 0 and 49, but if you track what I'm not bragging, just saying, it started at 50. Now, why is this? Can I have 5 more minutes? Okay. All right. 'Cause we got to manage the time. I know I'm a little bit over. There will be obstacles. My favorite quote outside of the Bible is a quote by Marcus Aurelius, one of the 5 great Caesars. And it was Marcus Aurelius who said this. This is deep now. The impediment to action advances the action. What stands in your way becomes the way. Where there is no obstacle, there is no way. What is the first thing God does when he gives you an assignment that he feels that you're prepared for? He puts an obstacle in your way. And your job is to find a way over, around, through, and under the obstacle, to fail, stumble, fall, and learn the lessons from that obstacle. And when you do that, you then get an attaboy or an attagirl from God, and then you get your next assignment at a slightly God do. He puts an obstacle in your way. And your job is to find a way over, around, through, and under the obstacle. And when you look back over your entire life, you will see that is the story of your life. Let me say it differently and I close. Life is hard, brothers and sisters. It's hard. Divorce is hard. Choose your hard. Obesity is hard. Being fit is hard. Choose your hard. Being in debt, actually disciplined is hard. Choose your hard. Communication is hard. Not communicating is hard. Choose your hard. Life will never be easy. If it was easy, why would God need you? It will always be hard. But we can choose. Pick what you want, but pick wisely. Do what you love with people that you love. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. The end. Thank you. Now, thank you very much. On August the 2nd and 5th, through the 5th, we will have the next Power Networking Conference, our 22nd year. The Power Networking Conference has been named by Forbes magazine as one of the top 5 conferences in America not to be missed. Not one of the top 5 black conferences, but one of the top 5 of all conferences. So, I want to make you an offer. If you go to our website, powernetworkingconference.com, you will see that an adult registration is $1,500. We sell out every year. We encourage you to bring a young person, 18 to 25. Our children should be sitting at the feet of masters. A student registration is $800. Together, that's $2,300. So I'd like to give you that with a $1,700 discount, one adult and one student for $599. The offer is good as long as I'm here. After I'm not here, don't call me. I will deny that I was eating. So it's a $17 offer. You can fill this out, give it to me. I've got a couple of books. People have asked me to bring some books. I brought my children's book. What did I do with it? I had it. Oh, here we go. Here we go. I'll be selling a couple of my books. This is my children's book. It's an adult book written for children. It teaches our young people that it takes teamwork to make the dream work. It is Who Would Have Thunk It? The first adventure of the Fraser foster kids. Okay? So that's available, plus a couple of other titles that you'll be familiar with. Again, thank you so much for indulging me in shameless self-promotion, and thank you for receiving the message so graciously.
Thank you, Dr. George Fraser. Come on, let's put our hands together for Dr. George Fraser. My Lord, my Lord, my Lord. We have, and we're just about done. If you guys would just sit for 5 minutes, we're done. But we've got just some legends that God has given to us, that God has blessed us with in these United States of America. And certainly Dr. George C. Fraser is one of those legends. Come on, let's put our hands together for him again. Another legend that we have in the house, ladies and gentlemen, that, oh my Lord, I was surprised. I didn't even know. And that is Dr. Johnny Ray Youngblood, another legend. Come on, let's put our hands together for Dr. Johnny Ray Youngblood in the house. I'm going to call him to close us out and just close us up. But listen, let me give you guys what's going on tomorrow, because you don't want to miss tomorrow. 9:30, we kind of want to step off, and it's going to be a packed day. Like I said, so many key leaders. This is all about access to resources. So the bankers, the CDFIs you learn about, these are leaders that are lending money without the regular criteria. And so they will be in the house, and a host of others. And I want to just acknowledge just everybody's attention for a quick minute. Everybody's attention for a quick minute. There's one young man in this room that I wanna acknowledge, okay? And I've been for much of my younger years. I've worked with quite a number of media outlets. I've written for a number of publications. I've done some radio, some television work in my journalistic life and career. And it's just amazing that my only trips to the continent prior to this was really in a journalistic perspective. But we had the how many people were at the Black Church Means Business Conference at the Brooklyn Public Library? How many were there? Okay, so you guys remember the Brooklyn. There was a young man at the Brooklyn Public Library. I had no idea who he was, why he was there. But a year later, he's calling me. And, I eventually answered the call. And within a couple of months, he had the president of the Ivory Coast reaching out to me. And apparently he came all the way from the Ivory Coast to that conference, and they did a Black Church Means Business conference in Abidjan, the Ivory Coast, and I was there as the speaker at an invitation of the president of the Ivory Coast, and he traveled all the way from the Ivory Coast just to be at the conference, and that is Pastor Joel. Is he in the house? Oh, there he is in the back. Pastor Joel, I'm going to have you share a little bit tomorrow. But again, I was so inspired by that. That was really my first real trip to Africa. But the other piece to that, and I'm going somewhere with this, the other piece to that years ago is that there's another young man who was assigned to me, Dr. Youngblood, while I was in Africa, running all over speakers places. In fact, the president of the Ivory Coast had a 2 a.m. prayer service with key leaders. And, when they said, you're going to the presidential mansion, it's 2 a.m. I went over there, and the place was filled with people praying and worshiping God. And the interpreter that they assigned to me, Felix, stand-up Felix, was a young graduate student who was my interpreter. He interpreted for me. I don't know, he kept up with me for a whole week all across the Ivory Coast. And he was so inspired by everything. He had no concept what he was going to do. And he ended his own business. He started a private schools with $100 that grew, and now he has 6 campuses, 13,000 students all across the Ivory Coast. He's going to be speaking tomorrow. That's going to be a part of the powerful wrap-up panel where we're going to link Africa to a greater degree with the African diaspora. We're looking forward to it. We're excited about tomorrow. It's going to be a full, a packed, and exciting day. Once again, folks, I don't know. Sometimes I feel so bad that I'm taking the credit for a lot of the work that the staff does. I don't always feel good about it. But the great work that the Christian Times senior editor does, she's not here, and certainly the great work that Reverend Evelyn Mans does, who really does, she did all the work. I'm just grateful. Thank you, Reverend Mans, for your work, for your leadership. We're certainly going to hear more from her tomorrow. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call on this dynamic leader who have done so much. Before there was really talk about housing and housing development, all this new stuff that we're dealing with now, Dr. Johnny Ray Youngblood, he's been doing it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Dr. Johnny Ray Youngblood.
It's time to go. But we need to give Dr. Dillon, Bishop Dillon, Reverend Dillon, Mr. Dillon, Dennis Dillon a hearty round of applause. Would you stand as we give him a hearty round of applause? I'm a preacher, so there's always something I can say. But I can't talk now because I am so full with what I've received. So all I'm going to tell y'all is watch my trail. I'm going to see you in August, and I'm going to have at least 20 people there. All right? And more to go. All right? Listen, if we don't do it, who's going to do it? If not us, who? If we're not a part of the solution, we're part of the problem. And if not now, when? Let's pray together. Holy Ghost, we thank you for this honorable time. We thank you for the man called Dennis Dillon. We thank you just for you and your presence. And we thank you for this gang that we are praying to revive called the church. We heard today that you need a gang, so we give ourselves to your will. We go down from this place, but never from your presence. And you do what you always do. Watch over us tonight while we slumber and sleep. But on tomorrow, we ask you to do it. Amen.